Hey guys, it's Audra, and today we are back with all the books that I read and attempted to read in the month of December. So we're going to start off talking about the Book of Lost Names, which was from my list of the Mom's Advice Book Club for last year. It's by Kristen Harmel, and I believe I gave this one 4 stars. I don't have a physical copy of it. I listened to the audiobook, and this for me, it was just like a regular 4 stars. World War II historical fiction story about a woman named Eva who in like more present day sees that there's this book of lost names that has been found, and come to find out like she helped hide all these children to be saved from Nazi Germany. And it's a story of her family, who they also tried, like she also had to change her identity. But like who in her family survived, did not survive. There's a love interest. It just started to kind of like repeat itself a lot towards the end, which you're going to hear a lot of my opinions on some other books that kind of did the same thing. It just was a little bit longer than it needed to be, I feel. But overall, it was just a good World War II historical fiction. If you were into those kind of stories, I definitely would check that one out. But moving on, the next one that I finished up was a very fast read called Do All Lives Matter? The Issues We Can No Longer Ignore and the Solutions We All Long For. It is by Wayne Gordon and John M. Perkins, who are both pastors, I want to say in Chicago, but like I said, super short. But I think it's more like an introductory to the fact of, you know, when it comes to not just Black Lives Matter, but also just other oppressions going on in our country, how the church can be a vital instrument to making change in that regard, and why it is not. So for example, it talks about how, you know, DNA-wise, we are all supposed to be made in this image of God, and that there is no attribute of God that can be cited to justify one person oppressing the other. So it talks about race like that. And then it also, I did appreciate how it went into talking about like the idea of holding our country so dear, I guess. It says we need to move beyond the idea that the critical evaluation of our country's past, and its present for that matter, means we are anti-American or unpatriotic. We can all be proud of our country and its many positive features and noble ideals, while still pointing out where we as a nation have come up short or been plainly wrong. And so I think it addresses some of those key things about what our Christian response should actually be to this movement, as well as others. As somebody who has kind of been working on reading a lot of things like this is definitely introductory. I feel like this is one that I could like subtly hand over to somebody who needed a quick intro to, you know, why it's important to educate yourself, but also to like read your Bible with the right intentions. But I gave that a 4 star just because for me, I wanted some more in-depth things that could be done. I did, however, find it recognized or talked about a book that I got in the same haul as this one called Toxic Charity, which I will be reading here shortly. It did discuss that one, so I thought that was ironic. I had no idea that they were somehow connected, but I'm excited to get into that one soon. The next book I finished, which was also 4 stars, I only had one 5-star book in this pile, but 4 stars, was Little Pieces of Me by Allison Hammer. I listened to this mostly on audio. We have a young girl named Paige, not young, she's probably, I think she was like late 30s, maybe early 40s, but she gets this email from the DNA website that she has new parent-child connection, and that her father, who recently passed away and she's like mourning his loss, is not actually her father. So you have present day of her like trying to reconcile what this means for her and her family. her mother, who is not forthcoming with this information at all. And then it goes back in time to the 1970s at Kansas University, which is cool because I'm in Kansas. And the story of the mom and how she became pregnant, and kind of the story of why their family ended up the way that it was. So it was a really great book about family ties, of course, like the DNA, which you're seeing a lot more of these stories about family dynamics being found because of these DNA matching websites. And I really enjoyed the story, and I definitely would recommend this if you are into stories like this as well. Moving on to the next one, we had one that I felt definitely repeated itself a lot, and it is so very hyped here on BookTube. It is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is the first V.E. Schwab book that I have read. Again, I think I listened to this completely on audio, which I did enjoy, but I think that in and of itself made it even more repetitive. But I did like the story overall. You basically have Addie in 1714, that she is kind of essentially being forced to get married by her family, and she makes the deal with this dark, like, shadow monster thing. I don't know. I still can't figure out like what exactly they're kind of referring to Luke, like Lucifer, as in this one. But basically, for her freedom from this marriage, she agrees to live forever. Well, one of the things about that is being able to live forever, the people in her life can no longer know who she is, so her family forgets who she is. But then also going forward, nobody remembers who she is. So as soon as somebody like looks away from her and looks back, or like they leave the room, they forget that she was there. And so obviously that's going to create a lot of turmoil for Addie throughout the years, until she meets somebody who has a similar situation with Lucifer, and it's their love connection and some other love connections. So it was an interesting story. It's definitely, like, obviously fantasy, not my typical book, but it was okay. The next one, I went back and finished up a couple books that I had on audio and in physical copy from the summer. We had Beach Read by Emily Henry. This was a story of two authors, Augustus and January, and they are both kind of in this same area, writing new books. And January and Augustus went to college together. Was there a love connection there? Was there not? It's kind of back and forth the entire time, but basically they decide to have this like competition between the two of them, that they switch styles of the typical kind of books that they write to see who sells more. And then of course, love interest along the way. It was an enjoyable book. I definitely think I would have gotten more out of it if I would have stuck to finishing it over the summer, but it was a good one as well. The only 5-star book from my pile is going to go to Sisters in Arms by Kaya Alderson. This is the story of these women during World War II who were in the all-black battalion of the Women Army Corps, the legendary 6888. I wanted to make sure I get that correct, so I'm just going to read it from there. But you have Grace and Eliza that are going into this battalion. It is their story of who they were before. One is a pianist. I can't remember what Eliza did, but it's kind of like how these women were treated within their battalion, within the Army. Obviously, during World War II, we haven't even gotten to the issue of segregation fully with the civil rights movement. And so there's definitely going to be a lot of race conversations, but also gender conversations where we are at in history. And so you have a lot of love, you have a lot of loss, and it was just an enjoyable read. And I really, really like the characters and getting to hear their story. So that is definitely one I would recommend if you like historical fiction stories. Obviously, a lot of these are books I have from Book of the Month. Some books I did not completely finish, but I started. There are 4 of them. The first one is one that I am not going to be finishing up, unfortunately. That is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. This is an interesting premise about a guy that is trying to get money to like keep his family and then accidentally ends up being a robber. This was one that was so repetitive. I was listening to it on audio that I was like, I had to check my phone because I was just certain that I had read that part of it before. Like it somehow had rewound or something, and it just kept going back and forth. And I almost got halfway through and it was still like, why are we hearing this part of the story over and over and over again? And I'm sure if I continued on and finished it, I would like find out why it is doing that. However, I'm just not that into it and just kind of don't care, maybe. I don't know. But moving on to ones that I will be finishing, not right now, but in the future. I only got like 3 chapters into The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. So this, in the timeline starts on December 30th. You finish it January 2nd. So hopefully I can do that for this time next year because it sounds really good. It's kind of a murder mystery of a sort that they're all invited to this like house and somebody's the suspect, somebody's killed, you know. So I definitely want to get back into that. I'm not going to unhaul it like I will Anxious People. The ones that I do want to finish that I need to finish soon are going to be The Invisible Summer of Juniper Jones from the Mom Advice Book Club. Again, this is probably one that would be better during summer, but I am just enjoying the characters. It's more like, I think it's actually YA, what it's intended for, but it's the summer of 1955, and Ethan Harper, who is a biracial kid, has been moved to go live with his aunt and uncle in Alabama, and he goes from living in a place that is accepting of who he is to a place that is not. And then he finds Juniper, they become friends. Juniper is very whimsical and I just love her energy. So I am maybe a third of the way through. I definitely want to finish this one maybe this next month. We'll see. I need to finish it this month. Let's just be real about that. And same goes with The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bayliss. Even though this is a Christmas book, I am halfway through. And I've really just been enjoying the story of, I don't remember her name, Kate, as she like has signed up for this like dating program, maybe is the word, where she goes on 12 different dates between a certain amount of time before Christmas. And like they set up like it's a matchmaking thing, and it's just kind of like her last ditch effort to like find somebody that she's compatible with, because she knows that she can have a kid by herself, and she like meets these people. Some are like compatible with her, some are not, some are accidental matches that shouldn't have been, and they become friends. I think I've probably like figured out like who she's gonna end up with very early. That has nothing to do with the program itself, but I still am liking the story, and it just is very, very relatable and very humorous. And so I do want to finish this even though it is now after Christmas. But yeah, those are the books that I read in the month of December. It is more books that I have read any other month of the year except maybe January, February, I don't know. Because I only read 27 books, and right now I have 6 for sure that I finished. So I mean, that's a good chunk of books in 1 month, as well as others that I plan to carry over and finish in this next month. So please tell me what you read in the month of December and what you are rolling over with you into the new year, if any, because I would love to hear your thoughts and comments down below. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.